Good day and welcome back to another DBZ Dokkan video. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at the Extreme Z Dokkan Festival Summon banner that has come for the 10th anniversary. It's a special banner because unlike other Extreme Z Dokkan Festival banners, this one features specifically 5 units correlating to this anniversary. So we can take a very big hint that not only does it feature the 2 Super EZAs, but it very likely features the 3 other Super EZAs we'll be getting during the course of the anniversary. This is very important because basically it means that this banner actually is quite good, because especially if you're a newer player, there could be value here. Let's talk a little bit about the units and we'll talk about the banner and the value. So firstly, you have the AGL Super Vegito. I think his Super EZA is pretty good. There are obviously still concerns, give or take, around his super attack tanking ability, but overall I think there's a lot of really good utility there. We have the INT Gohan, a absolutely fantastic boost and powerful unit for the Majin power team or the power absorption team, or whichever way you want to design or phrase that, like a really good unit for those type of events, so that kind of team. Then you get the Strength Super Gogeta, right, the Super Janemba INT, and last but not least, the Perfect Cell. I think these 3 are the most interesting because A, we don't actually have their Super EZA details, which means although we can assume they will probably be very solid, we actually have no idea how good they can be. And B, we see what 3 teams they're going to buff. So the first decision about whether you should summon, I think, should be whether you should consider what you're going to spend your redstones on. Every player was given 3 redstones. Some of you may have spent them already. Maybe you spent them on some of these units, like I spoke about in my video on the redstones. If you have spent your redstones on these units, then chances are you have less interest in summoning here. If you want to spend your redstones on other units, then chances are you probably want to summon here. That's one of the first defining factors. Secondly, it's very important to note that if you have a dupe in each of these units, or at least the first copy, you probably don't need to summon here. Realistically, outside of like the gain that you get from having multiple dupes and all that, as long as you've got the first copy and maybe even the second copy, something on here loses a lot of value, because leader skill wise these guys aren't great. They're great units, they'll be great units, but they won't be great leaders of teams. So that's something to keep in mind. On top of that, remember their leader skill doesn't change with Super EZA. So they don't get any better as a leader, you're functioning based off of their passive. For me, they do currently buff a lot of good teams. Super Vegeta buffs Majin Saga, Gohan buffs Buu Power, Gogeta buffs movie heroes and fusion, all great. Obviously, Janemba, movie bosses, etc. really good, uncontrollable power. The one big caveat is Cell. Cell is so interesting because he buffs Android Cell Saga as his main thing. Obviously, I think he's on planetary destruction, but it's mainly Android Cell Saga you think about. So, obviously they will probably do another Android Cell Saga release, but is it going to be a mainline LR? Is it going to be something crazy? It's very, very interesting to tell. At this point, what I will say, I think if you are a new player, if you've been summoning on the Part 1 banners, you have a copy of all of the units, etc., you can consider summoning here, especially if you haven't used your redstones. Picking up at least 1 copy of these 5 will be super helpful to you as a new player. If you're a veteran player and you don't have a lot of stones, or you just haven't got all the Part 1 units in general, refrain from summoning here, especially if you haven't used your redstones. Rather use your redstones to pick these units up. Now that we know who they are, you can save yourself a bit of trouble and trying to chase these units. Although I think the banner has good value, if you are a new player, you have surplus stones, its biggest value is if you don't have the units and you have the Part 1 units. Part 1 units like SS3 Goku or TEQ Vegito are going to be way more valuable for you to try and summon and get than trying to get these Super EZAs. Although they will buff those teams, they don't lead teams. So it's still always more valuable to pop stones on Part 1 banners. If you've got all of the anniversary units and a few stones to spare and you don't have these guys, then go for it. But rather look at substituting in with your redstones where possible. If you don't want to use your redstones on these guys, you want to use them somewhere else, then consider summoning here. There is value in these units. especially since we already know that these 3 units are going to be for the second part. So it's actually quite a valuable banner because of the fact that it's featuring 5 really recent powerful super ECAs. So yeah, good stuff.